And we are live with Jim Kuhoric and Devin Wilson.
Hello, ThunderCats fans. Welcome to the live stream, and thanks for joining us here. We're super excited today to have Devin Wilson, who is the author, basically the man behind the RPG for ThunderCats, here to give us all the secrets and the insights as to how the team over at Lynnvander has come up with this awesome new project, and to get us super pumped for its release coming up later this year. As you know, right now we're running an awesome Kickstarter where you can get in early and snag a copy of the RPG and a bunch of great accessories. So instead of me yapping away, let's let Devin talk a little bit about why this is a freaking fantastic game for ThunderCats fans.
Yeah, I mean, so basically when we started this out, we wanted to really capture the themes of what you get with ThunderCats stories at the tabletop. And a primary thing to do with that is, one, we want to make sure that it matches the kind of 80s cartoony-ism that you would expect. And two, we wanted the feeling of the stories you're telling to match what your expectations would.
Devin seems to have frozen up a bit there.
So primarily we focused on things like
Sounds like we've got a little bit of a snag. Are you back, Devin?
I think so. I'm not sure what that was.
All right.
Yes.
Can you roll again?
Yes. Primarily, you will find the story approach to be about trying to find Thundrillium sources, using that to then make decisions about whether or not you're going to use that energy to power your vehicles, your weapons, your base of operations, and having to make decisions on resource management, all while opposing forces are coming after you, likely going after the same resources and maybe even using it against you, thus making the decisions even harder. We took a very sci-fi fantasy approach based off of where, the rule set is designed for high fantasy with lots of magic, swords and armor. ThunderCats has a lot of that, but it also has plasma guns, cannons, spaceships, and all manner of sci-fi things as well. So how do we marry the two of those together? Basically, Thundrillium is that linchpin. So that's why we focus so hard on the theme of Thundrillium, because it allows you to explain why you would still use a sword, why you'd still be wandering around in metal armor instead of some force field and having a laser gun. Well, it's because that stuff takes a lot of energy, and there's a very finite amount of it. So it's actually beneficial for you to be using a sword or armor, and chances are your enemies likely are doing the same thing as well, because they also have an energy scarcity, or they're a native group from Third Earth and they don't have access to that high level of technology. So it helps us to take what at one point might have just been a thing that the writers were doing kind of just here and there for whatever suited the story, and add a thematic yet easily explainable reason in universe as to why things might be that way. And so if you want to have a character who has a sword and also has a laser pistol, but primarily will be using the sword and the pistol is just for emergency situations, this is the kind of game that will really get you going.
That sounds fantastic. It sounds almost like the ThunderCats, the meshing of those different elements is sort of like playing Dungeons and Dragons and like Star Frontiers or one of the other sci-fi games meshed together into one awesome game that represents a property that everybody really has fallen in love with over the last several decades.
Yeah, we didn't want to just make this feel like a different version of like Starfinder or Spelljammer or something like that, where it's sort of this weird hybrid situation. We wanted it to feel like ThunderCats. And so by having a lot of the stories of ThunderCats in all of its various forms, except maybe the 2011 reboot, it's all about, we need Thundrillium. We're going after in search of Thundrillium. We're trying to find more Thundrillium. and it's because they need it to power everything and to set themselves up with a decent base. And so by attaching all of the sci-fi technology to that resource, we've made it so that you can have a full-on adventure with ThunderCats that has nothing to do with laser guns or anything of the sort, and it would still fall within, you know, basic things. So it could be more D&D like, or it could be more you know, Spelljammer, Starfinder like. But I think what we've managed to do is find a really good way to balance it out a little bit, so that you're not sitting there thinking, well, if we have access to these like pistols that shoot concentrated energy at a distance and do all this damage, why aren't we just always using this? For example, in the ThunderCats show, occasionally in some episodes, the mutants are shown to be able to shoot lasers from their melee weapons, and some of the ThunderCats can do that. And it makes you ask the question, why aren't they always doing that? Why wouldn't you just unload lasers onto your enemies? Why are you running at them with clubs? And so our answer to that is because each one of those shots took up an energy charge, and they only have maybe 20 of them among all of the group. So yes, they're doing it, but in that case, they're doing it because they feel necessary to do so, and they're now going to be hurting later because they're not going to be able to power their vehicle to get back home or something.
That's awesome. That lends an extra layer of complexity to the game. I like it. Now, I'll tell you what, Devin, I'm an old school gamer. I've been gaming for many, many years. And one of the things I've always enjoyed about picking up a new game is being able to pick up the book and just run with it. That's the case here, right? Where if you buy the rules, you basically have everything you need. And then the other stuff that we offer just help to fill in the world and give you other things to enjoy.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, we offer all the details on the world setting, on how all the vehicles work, how all the weaponry works, how, like we talked about Thundrillium, how all of that works. We talk about various ways that you can incorporate the different eras of the setting and the amount of Thundrillium you might find in each of them. We have a lot that talks about like the ancient spirits of evil and how they can be interpreted and what they can be used for. We have a lot of talk about the different locations, different planets, different spots within those planets, adventure hooks for each of those locations that give you some advice on how to incorporate them into an adventure. And some of them kind of interact with one another. So you might see, well, this location has this adventure hook, but then also talks about this other location. And you go over there and that gives you another adventure hook. And so you can have chains of adventures that go from one place to another that organically traverse as you would expect. We also have tons and tons of creatures and monsters and enemies all ready to go for you to be able to go up against. And we have we also have an adventure built in the back of the book that is reminiscent of, it's sort of designed to be like a one-off show episode of the show, where there's something is presented, you have to go and deal with it, and then you come back and everybody has a happy ending and you can talk about the moral of the day. All of that is included in the book. There is the adventure guide, which we revealed on the Kickstarter a while ago, and that specifically is, do you want more detailed adventures to really dive into different stories and have, you know, if you just want to dive in and not have to prep anything for a story or adventure, that's going to give you a little bit more, although you can use the adventure at the back of the core book just as well. That gives you everything you need to at least kind of give a start to the adventure, and from there you can design your stuff going forward. If you want to run a ThunderCats adventure, everything you need is going to be in this book. We tried to leave no stone unturned. There were a few creatures that we ended up kind of cutting because we didn't really feel like they were that, not necessarily iconic, but that unique to what we wanted to present to compared to all the other stuff instead. But there is a huge chunk of this book that's just creatures and things for you to find.
Man, that sounds fantastic. For fans who are collectors like me, I've got bookshelves full of RPGs from years and years and years ago. There are also several limited editions available, right? So we've got a special Kickstarter edition and also like a high-end leather-bound, all the bells and whistles edition.
Yeah, so there's going to be there is the very nice leather-bound book. It's not real leathers, I think, for people who are, there was some conversation about that. But it will look very much like leather. It's very nice, and it has the ThunderCats symbol, with the Book of Omens guardian, the panther sigil on the front. So if you want to have something that's very reminiscent of like the Book of Omens itself, that's the way to go. Then we also have the more limited covers. The benefit of having access to all of Dynamite's art is that there's so much good cover art across all of the different comic runs. And so we were actually spoiled for choice when we were trying to decide what kind of covers to do. So we figured, why not try a couple of different options?
Yeah, absolutely. That main cover features the Nakayama piece from one of the early issues. It's really a beauty, sure.
Very iconic.
So for fans of ThunderCats, there's also a really cool collectible where you can get Larry Kenny, who is the voice of Lion-O in the cartoon, to autograph your edition.
Yeah, I mean, that we're super excited about that. Larry Kenny is at this point kind of a legend, to the point where when they did the ThunderCats reboot in 2011, they actually brought him in to voice the father of Lion-O, Cloudus, as sort of a little Easter egg to the old fans. So and it was immediately recognizable. As soon as I put on that first episode, I was like, that's Larry Kenny. And it was very appreciative. So it's really cool that he'll be able to have a part in this. I like to think of this book, the amount of effort we put into trying to take all of the various types of lore and setting information that has been released over the last several decades and try to consolidate it all into one book that has a cohesion from beginning to end and can present you with a sort of definitive version of the ThunderCats universe. It's very cool that he gets to be a part of that, what I would consider to be a sort of omnibus of ThunderCats lore and themes and ideas.
That is exciting. That is very exciting. It looks like we've got a question from one of the viewers.
Yes.
So I am so stoked for this release. Will the adventures be 1 to 4 hours? Adventure hooks. How robust is the storyteller tools section? Okay, so first of all, the adventure at the back of the book would likely be about a 2-hour adventure, give or take. It depends on your group, obviously. If they're very cautious or if they're a little more gung-ho, they may have your mileage may vary, but it is designed to be about a 2-hour adventure. It might go into 3 if they particularly like combat. There is also an option at the end that can extend it if you want it to be a little bit longer. And that encounter, the reason for that is because that is designed to just sort of be like an episode of the show, just kind of a one-off episode. The adventures in the adventure guide are just designed to be much more of a lengthy one-shot. So they're intended to be more like a 3 to 4 hour adventure with more encounters and a little more depth and detail to do. In terms of the adventure hooks that you'll find in the core book, so we have every single location that you would expect from ThunderCats, including those of you who maybe are more astute to the show itself might realize that there was one swamp, the Baleful Swamp, that was reused in 2 different planets. We found a solution to that, basically pulling from comics and things like that to include both versions of that location. And every single one of them has an adventure hook. These adventure hooks are about a paragraph length each, and they really just give you some ideas on what you can do for an encounter here, or if you want to run an adventure here, this is the stuff you can draw upon. Some of it references creatures you'll find in the rest of the book. Others just sort of say like, this is kind of how the place works. Like, you go here and all of the characters will become children, and the only way to solve that is by doing this. And so it gives you what you need. It gives you the outline and the bedrock that you can then form your adventure based on. The storyteller tools section in general, I don't know if I want to say specifically storyteller tools section, because a lot of the tools are useful by the players as well. So like the whole idea on how Thundrillium and Thundranium and Thundor can be used is something that the players will likely also be utilizing versus just the storyteller. In terms of the section that details all the locations and story hooks, again, it's about as robust as we could get it, without going so astronomically crazy on the page count and out of control. I think it gives you just about all you would need to get going. And then in terms of the stat blocks and the various enemies, we've gone into pretty good detail explaining what each creature is, how they can be used, what sort of tactics they might have, or what you might expect to, where you might expect to see them, how they might expect to react or act. And a little bit of history for some of the more notable characters, such as Slive. We give him a fair bit of backstory that you can use in your adventures, as well as some of the other mutants. And then the adventure is laid out in a way that is designed for anyone who, even if you're not used to running adventures, if you are someone who is sort of maybe just dipping the toe into adventure running, it does provide you with just about everything you would need to know in order to run the adventure. It has little note boxes with some advice on, this part can be a little tricky. Here's our recommendation for how to run this. Or it can be, if you find that the players are doing this and having some difficulty with that, this is a way, or 1 or 2 or 3 ways that you can try to steer things back into a certain direction. Or here's how you can manage the time if you're trying to keep this to a certain time frame. Here are some things you can do to keep it within that time frame. So there's a lot of guidance to assist you in running this adventure if you may not be a veteran of role-playing games.
Boy, that's fantastic. Thank you for that very detailed answer. I got to say, while you were talking, I was thinking I need to put you in touch with my game masters, because we can't get through one combat in 1 to 2 hours. But
yeah, well, so I mean, combat is always one of those things where I think it just depends on the group. Some people are really ready and raring, and other groups they really enjoy getting into the nitty-gritty of the grinding of the combat. So I mean, I think that combat should last as long as your group wants it to. If it lasts an hour and everybody's having a good time, that's great. If it lasts 15 minutes and everybody really enjoyed that, I think that's also great. We opt for kind of somewhere in the middle. We try to make sure that if there's an encounter, it's there for a reason, and it's not just there to kind of pad for time. But we also like to offer alternative routes. So not to spoil anything, but the adventure in the book does have a confrontation with the mutants, but it doesn't have to be a combat encounter, at least right away. It can be a social encounter because of the way that the scenario is designed. And so your players may actually end up finding a way to completely avoid having to fight them at all. And that could speed up the game time. Or they might go in swords raised, ThunderCats, ho, and just charge. And it could be like a huge combat that ends up taking up the vast majority of the rest of the adventure. So it tries to put the choice of how long the game goes into the hands of the player, and then gives you tips on how to rein things in if you don't want to run a 4, 5, 6 hour game.
That's great. Yeah, any help you can get in being able to run and get your game running smoothly is always appreciated by us game masters. That's wonderful. So the ThunderCats game right now is on Kickstarter. It runs for another week. It ends next Friday, the 16th. And we've got a ton of people who've already jumped on, are very excited, early backers who are really geared up to get the game and to get everything on it. There's still plenty of time for people to go check it out. Now, we did just add a really awesome game bundle, which to me is the most exciting offering on the campaign, that includes a GM screen, character sheet pack, the adventure book, and some exclusive dice. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, the dice are awesome. Like, I mean, who doesn't want to have a set of dice with the ThunderCats logo on all of the maximum numbers? Like, that's just, if anything's going to get you, I always find that dice sets really help you get into the mind of a character. So if you've got those ThunderCat dice, you're going to be ready and raring to just start screaming out all kinds of 80s one-liners and putting on some hair metal in the background and just jump straight in. The DM screen, I mean, again, one of the great things about having this project associated with Dynamite is that we have access to so much great artwork. And so, I mean, a DM screen was almost a no-brainer. It's like, well, we've got to use that art. Who doesn't want to have all that great artwork on display right there at the table the entire time you're running things. And then with the character, are you talking about the character pack where we have like each of the actual ThunderCats kind of laid out and detailed with the profiles and their associated magic item as well as their stat blocks? Yeah, we have we have a stat block for every one of the mainline ThunderCats. So Lion-O, Panthro, Tigra, Wily Cat, Wily Kit, as well as the new ones, the Linkso and Pyra and Bengali. We have all of them statted out. We also have their unique items that they're associated with. So like the Sword of Omens, the Tiger's Whip, the Chitara's Staff, all of them have rules and everything. I mean, we allow the players to get those objects if for whatever reason as a GM you decide to either have them knock out a ThunderCat and take that item, or if maybe there's one of them gets sick and so you get it, or you're playing as that character. You can have access to those items. Although if you want players to play as the ThunderCats, do be mindful that you're going to really need to beef up the encounters, because those items are, I mean, the Sword of Omens alone is pretty ridiculous, as you would expect. So, I mean, but if you wanted to do that, it would be quick and easy to just say, hey, everybody, especially if you have players who maybe are really into ThunderCats but haven't had a chance to play a lot of tabletop RPGs. It's not really something that they've taken an interest in, but they really want to try this ThunderCats thing. You can hand out those character cards, or those character sheets, and they will just have everything, all the numbers, all of the stuff there for what you would expect those characters to have. And then they don't need to worry about character creation, about how do I figure this out? How do I do this? It's just, here's your sheet. Here's what the different numbers are. I'm going to ask you to make certain rolls. You're just going to look at those numbers and then everything's there. You get to play as Lion-O. You get to play as Tigra. You get to play as Chitara. Let's go. I am Mumra. And so that is a really good way to bring in your friends who aren't as familiar without having to teach them the entire whole thing about role-playing games and how all the works and what this dice is for and what this dice is for. You can ignore all of that. Just give them the cards or the sheets and just be done with it.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I know that early on we would play, the Star Wars RPG from years ago. Everybody wanted to be the main characters. They didn't want to make their own characters. And so being able to play as the ThunderCats, even if the GM has to treat it as a higher level adventure because those characters are more powerful, I think people could really enjoy that, especially, like you said, people who maybe aren't heavy into RPGs could just step in and really enjoy playing the ThunderCats characters.
Okay, so we got another one here. As this is D&D 5e 2024, will Cat Slayer have Bastion rules? So Bastions, as far as I can tell, are so kind of is the answer to that. We do go into detail about Cat's Lair, about all the different rooms, and what you can find within it. So if you want to run it as a Bastion, you can. It has everything you need to use it as a Bastion. We just don't call it a Bastion because we are beholden to the SRD and the OGL, which means that we can't actually use certain terms, and certain rules are something that you can use, but you have to mention them and talk about them in certain ways. So if you would like to use Cat's Lair as a Bastion, we do provide you with the information to do that. It just won't be specifically called a Bastion. Awesome. That was a fun thing to do, going through and having to figure out what room was where, and looking at the old schematics of the design of Cat's Lair and everything. That was cool. That's
fantastic. I think fans are really going to find that the core book is just an archive of everything ThunderCats. Like if you're a ThunderCats fan and you aren't even an RPG player, you can enjoy it for just what it is. It's everything you wanted to know about the ThunderCats all in one wonderful package.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things that I've been saying as I was working on writing this book is I was going around telling people there isn't really a definitive book of everything ThunderCats. There's wikis and things you can find online, but a lot of the information there, while useful, it doesn't really get into the nitty-gritty details, or there's some stuff that's just straight up missing, or a few things that are just wrong. And so, there's a lot of information out there on ThunderCats, but if you really wanted to learn about where did Mumra come from? It's like you have to go to 3 different websites to get the full picture, and even then it doesn't really tell you. You still need to read some comics and watch the show. And you know, doing my due diligence and researching for this project ended up becoming this massive undertaking, because there's so much lore to the setting that can be found, and it's so rich with detail and ideas and different themes and concepts, that I started realizing, like, this book is basically becoming the definitive resource for a ThunderCats fan. Now, while we did take influence from many different sources, it's not just, this is all the information from the show presented to you. It takes stuff from the comics. It takes stuff. There's a few things from the 2011 reboot show as well. Not a lot, but there's a few things there. Just a couple things to fill in some gaps. And then there's some stuff that we did from kind of our own personal interpretations as well, where there wasn't any official or even unofficial kind of reasoning. But even if you don't really care about tabletop role-playing games, like, there is some value in this book to you, because just chapter 2, which talks about Third Earth and beyond, as well as the intro where we discuss the ancient spirits, the chronicles of the ThunderCats, the Code of Thundera, and the areas where we talk about all of the friends and foes. So like the profiles on each of the ThunderCats, the profiles on the mutants, on the Lunatics. You're not, as far as I'm aware, you won't find all of this information in one place anywhere else. And so even as just a ThunderCats fan resource, this book, I think, is going to be a valuable thing to have on your shelf, regardless of whether you enjoy playing role-playing games. Yeah,
that's super exciting for the hardcore fans. I know fans of a certain age who really grew up with ThunderCats are going to enjoy the fact that the folks at Lynnvander were so meticulous in going through all the lore, all the cartoon episodes, the comics, pulling it all together in one place with one really lovingly crafted item that we can enjoy is going to be something everybody gets a kick out of. So the Kickstarter, like I said, is running for another week. Fans have an opportunity to get in and get the book at the best price you can get it. The exclusive bundle, like I said, for anyone who is serious about playing RPGs, this has everything that you could possibly want in one place, including those special dice that you can only get by getting the bundle. Just a great book and opportunity for ThunderCats fans and for RPG players to enjoy something really special.
Absolutely. I mean, we tried to make sure that if you were a fan of ThunderCats, you were going to really enjoy all the little references. Like if you're someone who grew up reading the Star comics and reading the text-only stories that were printed in there, you'll see some things we mentioned from those. If you grew up watching the show, you'll see some things there. If you're someone who enjoys the Dynamite comics, you'll see things in there. We really tried to get as much packed into this as we could, so that a fan can just enjoy noticing all the little references and the Easter eggs, and just kind of take a trip down nostalgic lane. But also, if you don't know anything about ThunderCats and you want to, this is the way to do it. This will give you everything you could need to know about ThunderCats all in one go. And you don't need to spend 2.5 months like I did trying to figure it all out.
You can take 2.5 months to enjoy every page of the book.
That's right.
That's fantastic, man. I think I know I'm excited about it. I'm a big fan of ThunderCats, and like I said, I've enjoyed playing role-playing games forever. Having the opportunity to step into this world and have some fun with friends is going to be great for everybody who checks out the game. And the folks at Lynnvander have done a lot of fantastic games before this, so you've got a great reputation of putting together some exciting RPGs and board games. So I know that anyone who is coming into this from the outside can know with no doubt that it's been done by a group of people who are very passionate about RPGs and about making sure they make the best ThunderCats product they could make.
Absolutely. I'm very proud of it. I wasn't super invested in ThunderCats growing up. I'm a little younger. But I always kind of felt like an old soul. I've always enjoyed things from the 80s. I kind of always felt like I missed out on like a really cool era with a lot of, pop culture that has still now we feel the echoes of. And so ThunderCats was always on my periphery, and then being given the opportunity to really dive in. I mean, I think I could honestly say I'm probably a pretty decent expert on ThunderCats at this point. I know a lot of things that's never going to leave my brain that I didn't ever expect I would know. And I could consider myself a fan of ThunderCats now. As a fan, I wanted to create a product that I would enjoy. And our other writers, like Brian C.P. Steele, he grew up watching the show. Tommy, he grew up watching the show. And so there was a lot of passion for ThunderCats that went into this project. And so I really hope that when you all get to hold it in your hands, that you get to feel that passion as you read through the pages.
I am sure that everyone will. If you haven't had a chance yet, please stop over and check out the Kickstarter. There's a great video on there, and also you can see all the all the varying products that are coming together to make this into, I think, one of the biggest RPG releases of the year. Check it out. If you have questions, the Lynnvander team has been fantastic about answering comments and questions, and just doing our best to make sure everyone who's a ThunderCats fan gets their opportunity to get a hold of one of these and to see this come to fruition, so we can all enjoy what you guys have put together in this RPG.
Absolutely. It was lovely to be able to talk about this. I love talking about this book. It has been an exciting and an honor to be able to create all these things, especially for a community that has shown themselves to be very excited and very passionate about this, about these stories and these characters. So I definitely am happy to be a part of this community.
Fantastic. Well, I think that does pretty much wrap up our live stream here. Any last notes or thoughts for the fans watching?
If you have not had a chance to read the all of the various Dynamite comics of ThunderCats, I can say that having now read and watched everything ThunderCats, it's up there. So definitely check it out if you haven't.
Awesome. Thank you, Devin, so much for your time today. And thank you for putting together this love of labor and giving us all something really fun to look forward to.
It was my pleasure.
And thank you both for joining us. And be sure to, like Jim said, be sure to go over to the Kickstarter page and check it out.